Okay, we're back. We'll jump back into the meeting where we left off. I think we have anyone going to introduce Chris? Okay, Corey Grady. We have Chris Middleball give us the presentation on the research and prioritization process.
Thank you all for allowing me to introduce Dr. Medall. You know, I started looking back at the presentations we've had already this morning, and there's so many that are associated with research, from Chad to the map station, even our DMAP. We're entering into a research project with some DMAP participants, looking at white-tailed deer food habit studies. So there's so many cool things. And this morning, I mean, we've heard from map stations all the way down to Quinn's fish stick recipe. But I'm very proud of Chris. This is one of the joys you get as being a chief, that you get to introduce your staff. And when we hired Dr. Medall, I called his background checks. He came to us from Florida Fish and Wildlife. And his supervisor said, the only thing I can tell you about Medall is he's a man of high character. And I thought, what better testimony, you know? So I put that on the PAR when we hired him as justification. That was about the only sentence I had. So, but I'm very proud of Dr. Medall, and he is a product of our U of A co-op system. He received his PhD from our Arkansas co-op unit, so he is a direct product of what we invest so much in. So, Dr. Medall.
Thanks, Corey. And thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to talk today. So I'm going to be talking today about our new research, prioritization, and review process. So to give some background on it, the idea to have a process first began back in 2017. So it's about the time that the research division was actually formed. And it was identified that we needed to have a standardized way for research to be proposed within the agency and for us to select a university, a partner, to do the research with. So we reached out to a number of other agencies around the country that have a similar process. We took the good ideas that we gathered from all these other agencies, and we put together our own version of how to select research for funding. So we created an initial version of this process back in 2019. Unfortunately, this never lifted off the ground. I'll take the blame for that. I think we created a little too complex for that initial run that we attempted to do. Then Director Booth came on, and he revitalized this process. So he charged Corey with recreating this process, getting it back off the ground and implementing it. And so Corey took the lead on simplifying this, and in 2024, so last fall, we launched a new version of this process. And part of the idea was to be similar in function to the capital construction process, where earlier in the budget cycle, we're able to get an estimate of funding for then funding research that comes into play the following fiscal year. So what is this process? So the research prioritization and review process is an annual process, so this will take place every year, where AGFC staff determine our research priorities. We rank these research priorities that we determine, and we select which of these priorities that we want to put money towards. So which of these are we going to fund a project on? So what we mean by research is an original question-driven project which enhances our agency's understanding of natural resource ecology and management. So we make science-based decisions for management and conservation, and we use research to make those decisions. And so it can either be internal to the agency. So like Corey mentioned, we had several examples of this already today. Jeff Quinn's Alabama Shad Project is a perfect example where our internal staff have the expertise and the capacity to do a research project. Or we can fund an external partner to do a project. So example of this is the Chronic Wasting Disease Project with the University of Georgia that just wrapped up, where we may not have the time and capacity to do the project ourselves, but we fund this external partner to do this project. And these external projects are the ones that this prioritization review process is oriented towards. So what is not included in the research prioritization review process are these internally conducted research projects, like I just mentioned. Our state wildlife grant program, so Nick Goforth manages this. There's already a process in place for how these projects are selected. We did not change that in any way. Section 6 funds and other external grants, these are not included in this process. Those already have their own timeline, they already have their own mechanism for funding, so we don't attempt to change that in any way. In addition, monitoring and surveillance. So again, we're talking about original question-driven projects, not things like creel surveys or habitat improvement projects or things like that. So how it works is year-round, staff in the field, they identify their research needs. So as they're identifying their research needs, they propose those project ideas to their division leadership. In October, the division leadership meets and they rank the division projects in order of division priority. So for example, in our fisheries division, if there are 5 project ideas that have gone up to the division leadership, the fisheries division leadership will sit down and rank those 5 projects in order of division priority, so from 1 to 5. The same thing is going to be happening in wildlife and research and private lands and so on. Then in November, we work with the fiscal division, and the fiscal division provides an estimate of available research funds for the coming fiscal year. And so these are just category 4 funds. So again, those funds that can be used for granting to an external university. So now that we have the list of proposed projects from all our divisions, we have an estimate of funding from our fiscal division, we're able to make decisions about which projects we want to fund in the coming year. So in November, a research review committee meets and selects projects from across divisions for funding. So this is a cross-division committee. They take into account the projects from fisheries, from wildlife, and so on. They take into account the available funding, and they plug in those highest priority projects into the available funding to select which projects are going to be funded in the coming fiscal year. Then that gives us the rest of that fiscal year to get these projects set up and running. So after these projects are approved, for between January and July, now we're able to release an RFP. We have the universities bid on that project. We're able to select which of the universities we want to fund. Then they have plenty of advance notice to pick students, then to get the project off the ground. So what is new about this? Well, it provides us a more stable research funding. So as projects are finishing, new projects are taking their place. So we're able to forecast years in advance. So we have in a single location all of the research that's going on, all these external projects that are going on in the agency. So we're able to see, based on fiscal year, how much we're spending on each of these projects. We're able to forecast which projects are finishing up this year or next year, and we're able to plug in new projects based on our known funding and the timeline of these other projects. So the idea is to become more stable, so to keep research funding at a high, stable level. It also gives us an earlier time frame for advertising projects. So we've heard from universities as we were setting this up that the more time we're able to give them, the higher quality students they're able to recruit, the better planning they're able to do for the project, the better quality product that they can give us. So universities will have more time for planning and for recruiting students. It also enables us to track all of our agency research in one location. So now we're going to have a centralized database where we're tracking all the projects that are going on, again, when they're wrapping up, how long they have. This allows us to have better reporting of and advocating for agency research. So a report on our first year, again, 2024 was our first year of this process last fall. In November, the Research Prioritization Review Committee met, and they selected 4 projects to fund. So these include a Savannah Restoration Project. This is in partnership with the Private Lands Habitat Division and being led by the University of Arkansas Cooperative Research Unit. Prescribed fire effects on CWD Prion load, a project in collaboration with Colorado State University. Our Fisheries Division is leading a project looking at the effects of forward-facing sonar on our fisheries in collaboration with Oklahoma State University. And we have a smallmouth bass project going on, again, with the University of Arkansas Cooperative Research Unit. And all these projects, again, they're selected back in November 2024, and they began in July 2025 of this new fiscal year. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about research in our agency, kind of a bigger picture. So in our agency, we're still working on finalizing getting these tracking mechanisms all in place. But roughly, in this fiscal year, in FY26, we're spending about $770,000 on Category 4 research projects. So again, these are those external projects that are done in collaboration with primarily universities. And again, this does not include our state wildlife grants. That's a completely separate process. So in total, we have 12 external research projects going on. So I talked about the 4 new ones. We had 8 existing projects already in place. And so this gives us a total of 46 internal plus external research projects. And just to give an idea of some of these internal projects, I know these numbers here don't add up to 46 because most of these are collaborative across our divisions. But we have about 28 projects going on in our fisheries division, 11 in wildlife, 14 with our research division, 2 in private lands, but there's many other divisions that are partners on these projects, including environmental coordination, communications enforcement, and others. So many of these projects are very collaborative across our divisions. And like Corey said, we had a lot of great examples today of some projects going on. I did just want to briefly touch on a couple of internal projects to give you kind of an idea of some of the breadth of our staff's capacity. So for example, Amanda Bryant, herpetologist, is working on a western chicken turtle propagation project right now. We have with our fisheries division, they're improving our methods for sampling catfish to help us to be better able to monitor and to manage these species. Wildlife, y'all have heard about our goblin chronology work, but they are using these acoustic recording units for turkeys, for quail, for other species. So lots of research going on, a huge breadth of research going on across our agency. And to wrap it up, I want to finish on a high note here. I want to mention we put together a peer-reviewed database. So peer-reviewed publications are the gold standard of reporting of scientific results. And our staff regularly use literature for helping us to make management and conservation decisions. Well, our staff also is involved in writing and contributing to the peer-reviewed publication. And I do want to mention this is really, in most cases, above and beyond staff's normal job duties. So faculty members at a university, for example, their promotions, their jobs are tied to these publications, but it's different for state agency biologists. So these are our staff taking the time to contribute to the literature to improve management and conservation across the region, across the nation, and to really improve our reputation as an agency. So in 2024, there were 14 peer-reviewed publications with AGFC staff co-authors. 2025, we have 14 so far. Again, just to give a brief example of some of the breadth of these, we have Matt Horton in our fisheries division, our aquatic invasive species biologist, working to proactively identify which water bodies may be most at risk of invasive species. We have Kendall Moles, our malacologist, not just monitoring for our endangered species, but also looking into the genetics of them to better help us to manage these endangered species of mussels. Clint Johnson, our quail coordinator, improving our methods for monitoring of quail, increasing our efficiency, our cost effectiveness of our monitoring methods. And social science, we have work done by Jessica Phelps and Vic DeCenzo, helping us to become better able to select anglers for surveys. So again, just a huge breadth of research that we have going on. And there's not a great way to compare it to other agencies, but from my understanding and from what I've seen, I put us up against any agency in the country based on our size and our publication record. It's really impressive what all our staff are doing. So if you have any interest in checking out that peer-reviewed database, this is a QR code that'll take you to a PDF. We've gone back to the beginning of time that we could find these publications, and we plan to keep this updated going forward in the future. So thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about research in general or about our process in particular.
Dr. Medall, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? A great presentation. It's always good to see the efficiency, but thank you very much. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Now on to our director's report. Director Sean Rock will deliver his report.
Let's just all be thankful that we're not Alabama Shaft. Because the odds of surviving what we've already done today are pretty slim.
No question.
Anyway, welcome to the Camp Robinson Special Use Area, and I'd like to thank our Wildlife Division for hosting us here and for the fascinating tour and the ecosystems that we saw today. Very special place. And also to our Enforcement Division for the wonderful lunch that we had today. Joe, thank you. Joe, your crew, thank you. It was educational to see the dispatch room and to see what goes on there. So Brian, thank you for the leadership, and Major Paul, Major Krim as well. Thank you. So here we are, Camp Robinson SUA. I've heard about it a lot in the last couple of months, but none of it reflects what I've seen in the last couple of hours. Everything I've heard about is trying to be more forward-facing to the public and what we can do to better acclimate folks to being able to use this very special area. You know, this area provides for shooting practice. We heard some of that this morning, archery practice, all kinds of hunting and working dog training and bird watching. And then, gosh, I learned a lot about pollinators and plants today. I was checking off my checklist. Pretty cool. So what's unique about this area is that it's both prairie and woodland in a savanna type environment. And it's a unique ecosystem that's pretty rare in the state of Arkansas. And it's a precious resource for us all to enjoy and more importantly than that, to appreciate. It's truly unique and special, a special place. Well, as Vice Chairman Finley mentioned earlier, our chairman is not present with us today, but I'm sure she's watching. If the interweb's up and running right, she is. Well, Madam Chairman, congratulations on the new addition to your family, and we absolutely miss you for sure. But we've got this. This group of commissioners sitting at this table is talented, strong, and dedicated. And on behalf of all the staff and employees at AGFC, we'd like to thank you for your leadership. But, man, you're exactly where you need to be today. Take your time and cherish your new arrival. First of all, I'd like to give you a brief update on something that we take for granted and seldom of us understand, but it's something that our game wardens wear every day. And it's not a badge, it's not a belt, and it's not a pair of shoes. It's a BWC. Everybody know what that means? You guys are not eligible to raise your hands. And BWC stands for Body Worn Camera. So I'm going to use BWC throughout this little presentation on body worn cameras. Well, our enforcement division began using these BWCs in September of 22. So about 3 years ago this month. And the advent of use of this technology has really resulted in a significant turning point, which has entered in a new age for evidence gathering, as well as it's fostered really a greater public trust through transparency of the accountability by wearing these. So our game wardens each go through a very meticulous training that not only involves the technical aspects of the equipment, but also the policies and procedures for effective use of the equipment. So this equipment plays a very critical role in officer safety, as well as operational efficiency. The technology provides both live and recorded feeds with real-time location tracking. And this real-time location tracking allows supervisors to assess threats for effective resource allocation as needed by understanding the environment around those officers and potential dangers that these officers may be facing. This technology also provides immediate tactical guidance with real-time support of officers on the ground. Don't let you stand all day, Chris. And this technology also helps to facilitate a rapid response, especially from dispatch where backup support is needed by our officers in the field. Well, there's another module to this tool. It's called Records Management System. And this module retains evidence in video and audio, as well as still photo content. And all that helps with things that are behind the scenes, like chain of custody tracking, who handles evidence, who touches it, and so that we have this chain of tracking for our evidence. It also has a huge benefit in that there's cloud storage with a very robust search function. So if we're looking for a specific area, a specific officer or a specific date, we have a quick search capability to go in and just source that information. It offers real-time information on citations and points tracking, which really helps an officer make an on-the-field decision in a lot of cases. And it also upholds standards from the department, as well as it helps us manage various types of both internal and external communications and interactions. Well, this system also documents all elements of pursuits and use of force, as well as provides analytics such as crime trends and hot spots and training opportunities and statistical reports as needed. In fact, in just the last year, in the last 12 months, over 4,000 incident reports like boating accidents or hunting accidents or canine deployment or even some human interactions have been recorded through this machine. But over 41,000 videos have been recorded. That's significant. And it's important to have all of that for evidence. So in short, the use of body-worn cameras or BWCs and the associated capabilities from the technology that we've gained has greatly helped our game wardens in basically all aspects of their jobs. And it wasn't always like that. We didn't always have these, and it wasn't easy to transition into these. But now it's a critical part of that uniform that they put on every day. So next time you see a wildlife officer, you know what that little thing is on their chest. It's an Axon camera. So I'm going to get into some other exciting news from the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, but probably the most exciting is something that most of us got a press release on from our communications department yesterday, and there was a bigger press release, I think, going out. You got an email from Luke, I think, and I think Randy's working on a press release, probably back there pecking on it right now, aren't you, Randy? But, so, we got the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service forecast, duck forecast. So they formally released, it's called the Waterfowl Population Status Report. Got this yesterday. So, the estimated forecast is 34 million ducks in the traditional survey areas. Virtually identical to last year, where we had about 34,000 waterfowl moving their way south. So what this means is that basically mallards are about flat. Well, they're really important to Arkansas. They're forecasting about 6.6 mallards in the flyway this year. Same number as last year. Now, where they're coming from may differ a little bit, depending on the moisture in the prairies and the nesting grounds, but the flat will be unchanged on mallards. Northern pintails, about flat. Maybe some people are estimating is up a little bit, but about 2.2 million northern pintails are expected to be in migration this year. And then blue-winged teal also remains unchanged, but it's below the threshold to increase the season to a normal 16-day season. So it'll probably be a 9-day season again in the year 2026-27 season. So all this summed up is good news in my opinion because we're still pretty dry in the prairies. So to have 34 million ducks winging their way south and hopefully getting to Arkansas is good news for the miserable conditions that exist in much of the prairie pothole and the southern Canada area right now. There has been some moisture in other parts of Canada, but they don't necessarily result in the same productivity as the prairie pothole area does. So in all, we have about a 19% reduction in pond count that we've seen. So the numbers from this year's survey are going to result in a 2026-2027 being considered a liberal season framework, which is the same as what this year. 60 days, 6 ducks, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife will set the dates on when we can start and when we got to finish by. So that is good news. Hopefully for all of us waterfowlers out there, we'll have some success in the fall, provided we get enough weather to push the birds down south. The number one problem still is habitat in the prairies, moisture and habitat. which is why so many organizations are pushing for more habitat, more dollars going to the prairies and the breeding grounds for ducks. So in other news, the annual turkey and northern bobwhite quail population survey just ended a couple days ago. We had 122 unique surveys returned, and they showed a slight decrease in poults per hen when compared to last year. Most likely that decrease is due to the wet conditions that a lot of places in the state felt during the course of the year. However, the good news is that the average poults per hen observed is still well above the prior 10-year average. And just a week or so ago, the 34th annual Arkansas Outdoor Hall of Fame banquet was a huge success right there in Little Rock with, I'm told, over 1,600 attendees at that event. It was huge. If you haven't had a chance to go, you got to go to this thing. It's pretty neat. And just last week, I had the honor of attending the annual fisheries meeting. And I really enjoyed meeting a bunch of professionals in our fisheries division. I learned a lot about all kinds of things, touch points that the division touches on, like meat eater trivia, which is pretty cool, although, Tommy, most of the kids, the younger biologists who were kids, some of the trivia questions dealt with things that were like before these kids were born. And so but they still came in, second, I think? So they did a good job, but I learned about stuff like crayfish and invasive species. I never knew that there was so much to learn about crawdads. Other than I like using them for fish bait and I like eating them, but man, there's a bunch of crawdads out there and a bunch of species. In fact, I think our research folks are even working on identifying new emerging species of crawdads right here in Arkansas. Pretty neat. Learned about bass migration, what happens when you turn a bass loose after you've weighed him in at a tournament, where does he go? And things like that we're studying, as well as cold water species. I'd like to compliment, Tommy, your leadership on this in this department. It showed, and it's very exceptional, so congratulations on that. Also, the private Habitat Lands Division, in just the last month, hosted 4 landowner workshops and 5 qualified prescribed burn courses in August, just in August, with a collective of 224 private landowners in attendance. That's impressive. Private landowners are depending on AGFC to help teach them, and they're sponges. They want to learn, and the more we can do of that, the better. Our WMA work days are scheduled for the month of September. We're going to do work days on 6 WMAs, and sign-ups for those are posted on our website as well. And friends, probably the biggest news that I have to tell you is that September is finally here. It's upon us, and it's a special time of year when we all participate in some onset of some fabulous traditions. So, September 1, just 2 days ago, saw the following hunting seasons open with rabbit. We were just talking about eating rabbits on the way back from lunch. And I got hungry again, didn't we, Rob? I'm sorry. We got hungry, didn't we? We were fired up about that. Rabbit, crow, fur bears, except river otters, early Canada goose, and purple and common gallinules. Let me tell you about purple and common gallinules, okay? Until I went to the fisheries meeting and I met someone who hunts purple and common gallinules, I didn't even know what a gallinule looked like. But you know, we all take the hip survey, right? And we have to fill out, did you hunt rails or whatever, gallinules? It's a bird, y'all, and it's a really pretty bird. And one of the fisheries biologists that I met is going purple gallinule hunting, or went on September 1. So I've never met a purple gallinule hunter either, and so, man, last week was highly successful for me to meet these guys. So this Saturday, just 2 days from now, it's the 6th. It's another huge opening day. We've got an opportunity for our archers to go to select areas in the state and kill a buck in velvet. That's pretty impressive. Not many states are allowing bow hunters to do that. And one of the great traditions in the South, it's the dove season opener. And that is truly tradition. I've had some of the best food I've ever eaten at dove shoots, after the dove shoot. So great Southern tradition. And also, for you football fans out there, Arkansas and Arkansas State play at War Memorial Stadium in Little Rock. And I'd like to thank our enforcement division, Joe, for helping out with that. This facility is operated by state parks, and we're assisting the state park police as well with some security efforts at that event. So thank you, Joe. Well, later this month, still in September, we have bear season coming up for archery. We got alligator season starting. We got early teal season starting. And we have Virginia and sorrel rail. I still haven't met one of those hunters yet. But I have a feeling when you go to the East Coast, you might run into some of those in the marshlands. Friends, that's just September. Before we meet again in October, about 4 to 5, 6 weeks from now, other seasons are going to be ushered in. We have the alternative firearm season for deer and bear. And elk season opens in October. That's with the special permit as well. But other than hunting seasons in September and October, there's some really important other events happening in the natural state, including tomorrow night is the South Arkansas Night of Conservation with the AGFF. And I'll be there with Deke. It's down in Magnolia tomorrow night. Excited about that event. Next Saturday, the 13th of September, yours truly is going to be a judge at the World Champion Squirrel Cook-Off. I'm a food guy, and I'm looking forward to that. Now, my wife thinks I'm going to be tasting a bunch of tree rats, but she's never had squirrel before. I'm telling you, it's good stuff. And our education division is hosting a one-day adaptive recreation professional development workshop for staff that enhances skills for our team members who are assisting in adaptive recreation or mobility impaired hunts. This is going to take place on October 16th. I had no idea they did this, to train our staff on how to work with mobility impaired folks on getting a field, which is really important. And then also happening, coming up real soon, our Generation Conservation Regional Competitions on the 17th and 18th. I think that's still in October, right, Mary Beth? Yeah. September, I apologize, September. And that's going to culminate then with the championships celebration in Hot Springs in early November, like 5, 6, 7, something like that. So looking forward to that. And thank you to our education staff who is working with this on judging these competitions. And on September 19th, just about 2.5 weeks from now, we're going to celebrate the graduation of Cadet Class E-125 as they become new game wardens. And I'm excited about that. That's a big class, Joe. Congratulations to all of you. Brian, great job on the training center. And thank you for hosting us and showing us around a bit today. And at the end of September will be the Natural State Landowner Expo on the 26th at the Benton Event Center. And I think that's posted on our website too. So y'all come on out for that thing as well. It's going to be very interesting. A lot of private landowners will be there. And before our next meeting on October 16th, Arkansas Game and Fish is going to host a couple of things. A public meeting to review the chronic wasting disease population impact study. And that's going to be in Jasper on October 2. And then the fall, Becoming an Outdoors Woman event is going to be hosted at the Arkansas 4-H Center October 3 through 5. So as you can see, we have a lot of things going on in the natural state over the next couple of months. And I'm very proud, really, of all of the AGFC staff who make all of these things happen. All these events we've talked about, they make happen, but they make that happen in addition to doing their day jobs and in support of our mission. So it helps spread our mission to the public, and I'm really appreciative of that, and I think that the public is appreciative of that as well. So yes, the advent of fall is here. September is special. The leaves are going to be changing. I saw a few out there today. They're changing just a little bit. Our landscape is going to look a little more different, and the weather's going to begin to cool off, and then we're all going to hopefully get a field and do what we love doing. Do the traditions that make every fall special, whether it's hiking or biking or hunting or fishing. Let's not waste that time of year. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Sean Rock. All right, on to the commission items number 5. Before we can start discuss today's business, we'll need to suspend the committee rules. Have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5A is the employee handbook. Jenna Highland, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For your consideration today, we are presenting a revised AGFC policy manual. You each have a binder. In your binder, it's going to have the proposed employee handbook, the 11 long-term policies, and we've also included for you a copy of the procedures that we will have available on the intranet for staff. And then a crosswalk that kind of helps give you the clip notes of what was and what we're asking to create. So the current AGFC policy and procedure manual was created in 2016 and is a whopping 317 pages long. So when you think about 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, 317 of those is the current policy and procedure manual. That's the size of a novel. It seemed to mandate everything from what you wore, what you did with a nuisance bear to fish sticks. Like it was crazy. The breadth and width of what that policy and procedure manual was, and it was totally overwhelming. So by comparison, the new employee handbook will be about 37 pages long. We've updated policies and procedures to comply with state and federal law and reflect current practices. And more importantly, our goal is to make it easily accessible and user-friendly for staff. And so with your approval, we will have an employee handbook. We will have the 11 long-form policies and a procedures manual that will be housed on the HR intranet page. In your crosswalk, you will see at a glance any changes to kept policies and policies that we intend to delete. I want to review the changes with you now. Administrative investigations, the change to that policy will give the chief of HR the ability to have an initial review and determine the appropriate investigating authority for administrative investigation. And then at the conclusion of that investigation, it will be my responsibility to present those findings to the chief of staff for disciplinary determination. The grievance policy, we've updated what grievable issues would be allowed to include written reprimand, suspension without pay, disciplinary demotion, and termination. This is very much in line with state policy. We are also creating a dedicated grievance officer. The current practice is there's a list of random employees across the agency. I believe since I've been here, we've done grievance officer training one time, but they are selected and they are expected to know the grievance procedures and walk employees through that. And to me, I would rather have the person that is the dedicated grievance officer be well-trained, well-versed, and be a part of the HR staff that can assist employees through that grievance process. Disciplinary policy, the chief of staff will have the authority to terminate. We are doing this to allow, through the grievance process, the director is the final review and makes the final determination on grievances filed. And so allowing the chief of staff to be at the level to make decisions on terminations that makes that grievance process work. New policy. This last legislative session, bereavement leave was created. This allows up to 40 hours for employees to utilize through the cat leave process with the death of immediate family members. There's an additional military leave option now, service-connected with disability leave. Service-connected disability leave is the new military leave category. And then maternity leave, we're bringing our policy up to date with what was passed session before, I believe, that allows 12 weeks of maternity leave for new mamas. The probationary period, we are updating that policy to allow the documentation of the probationary period to happen through Lattice quarterly meets. Employee volunteers. So AGFC employees who are volunteering on AGFC activities, will be capped at earning 16 hours of comp time each year. So if you've got hourly employees that are gonna volunteer at a shooting sports event or an education event, we wanna cap what comp time they're able to earn at 16 hours a year. They can flex time as much as you as their supervisor deem appropriate. Demotion and promotion, we really went in and just updated the language around demotion, added the word minimum. An employee will receive a minimum of a 10% decrease with demotion. The dress code. The dress code was an interesting current policy. It was very lengthy and it was very detailed as to what it addressed. And what we feel through HR research, what we feel is best is, and with as diverse as our agency is to allow, we have a dress code policy in the handbook, but it's addressing being dressed appropriately, you know, having an appropriate appearance and when you interact with the public and each other. But we will allow divisions to set standards for appropriate dress code within their divisions. Certification and continuing education, utilizing, divisions will utilize their own budgets for training, certifications, and continuing education for professional licenses relevant to commission needs. This is a policy that we just felt like needed, we didn't feel it was very clear in what it was set to do. So this is just clarifying that. Hope, you know, we've worked with legal on the language with all of this, just to make that as clear as possible. And then lastly, FML, CATLE, annual and sick, we've updated that language per state and federal guidelines. It doesn't change how any of that works, we've just brought it, technically it's the number of hours you have to have worked the previous year to qualify. It increased by 250 hours, essentially, so we just updated that number. So what we're asking is for this handbook, if so approved, would be effective October 1st. Between now and October 1st, we will make available a video training that walks through each of these changes for employees and provide a printed copy of the new handbook for all employees. I want to thank, this has been months in creating it. We've gone through every word of the old handbook, every policy. We've taken great care to make sure we've captured all of the procedures. We've worked diligently to really put forth a product that will make it easier for employees to feel comfortable in not breaking the rules. And so I want to thank my Assistant Chief Erica Manis and my statewide project manager Lori Good. I could not have done this without them. They have worked so hard on this. I want to thank John Marks and Rob Brown in legal. They were invaluable as well throughout this process. So with that, I'm open. If you've got any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Jana? Let me just say this, it's impressive, anytime you can cut 80% of a content and still be productive and is impressive. So I know it took a lot of work, a lot of concentration, and stick-to-itiveness on you and your staff's part, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, I really appreciate everybody, doing this, because I think obviously all 620 employees are going to greatly appreciate just the streamlining and making it simple. And I know that took a lot of you and your team, so hats off.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? And the motion is approved. Thank you, Jana.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, there are no new business. There's no old business.
We got one more, don't we?
Oh, yeah, we do. Sorry about that. Did you mention that? Yeah, one from this morning.
Not that one? No, here you go. Hand me that piece back, brother. There you go.
I got it right here.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we have one more, the budget increase for the Oakwood unit cultural recovery. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. First, let me thank you for adding this agenda item to today's meeting. And we're doing everything possible to move this exchange with Fish and Wildlife Service forward. And as you'll recall from last month's meeting, the Commission is working on the exchange with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that would convey about 2,200 acres of Burl Anthony, Lower Washita Wildlife Management Area for Fish and Wildlife Service's Oakwood unit, which totals about 2,200 acres. So because this transaction involves the transfer of federally owned land to a non-federal third party, meaning the state, the exchange is considered an adverse effect under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act and its implementing regulations. So to minimize, avoid, or mitigate such adverse effects to cultural resources, the Fish and Wildlife Service, in consultation with the State Historic Preservation Office, must undertake an archaeological survey of portions of the Oakwood unit. Given the challenges of federal contracting and the federal government being at the end of their fiscal year, staff are proposing to contract the survey to ensure it's completed in a timely manner, which will help ensure the exchange is completed as expeditiously as possible. Ideally, we would have presented this budget increase request at last month's meeting, but we just came to an agreement yesterday with state and federal archaeologists on the acreage that has to be surveyed. And so we were able to reduce the total acres that have to be surveyed down to 400. So therefore, we're requesting a budget increase of $163,704 from state funds, which the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service will reimburse us.
Okay, thank you. You guys have any questions? Commissioner Adams, thank you for keeping us on track. Would you like to make that motion?
I will make that motion.
We have a motion and a second.
I'll second it.
We have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we have no old business, no new business. Any need for executive session?
No, sir.
Nope. So before we go, we'll give it a start with the left. You want to start with you, Brandon? Any comments before we finish up today?
Sure. Having grown up in Conway, I'm kind of ashamed that I've never been out here and seen this before, so I was really impressed with what's going on here, and I think that it just adds to with what we're doing with Lake Conway, and really, especially when we're going to be finishing this hopefully by the end of my term. But I really want to commend you guys, and then also tell you how much I'm looking forward to really promoting this part of the state to people that, because it's a jewel that most people don't know we have. And so I really want to focus on that once we get all this work done, because there's so many things to do out here, whether it's shooting sports, archery, fishing, bird watching, and deer hunting and all those things. So really excited to see this and want to make it one of my focuses, especially for the areas that I represent, that they're beautiful areas that people have not seen. And so really proud of you guys, especially knowing that you've done all this without the recognition and things, but want to change that going forward. So thank you.
Oh, good points. Thank you. Commissioner Tappan?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Finley, thank you. Two quick points just to follow up on those great comments of Commissioner Adams. Thank you for today. And I won't repeat all the complimentary things he said, but I will add, you know, this is one of the most informative tours that we've had with all of this material, and I will use this, particularly the pollinators and the identification of plants. So thank you, staff, for all of your organization today and what you put together. I think Bill, you and I and Brad Carner, and I appreciate his preliminary work that he had done on regulations. We're coming into that regulations time of year. And Jana, I'll take it as a mandate or a directive that you've set of how effective you have been in reduction of personnel matters, which are are one of the most important things and guides, resources to our organizational structure. If we can do that in HR in such a critical area of importance, we can do it with regulations, right?
We need to put her on the committee.
Bill, I agree. But in earnest, we have begun that process, and I want to thank Brad again for helping organize and collate some of the information that we assimilated last regulation cycle. Commissioner Jones and I met with Brad to discuss that and kind of set some of the preliminary guidelines, and that really is an overarching goal. We're not doing this just for staff, which would benefit you, but primarily for our end user. We've heard it over and over and over again. We have made the hunting and the fishing experience more complex than it needs to be, which prohibits, I believe, a number of young entrants coming into our business, and we got to change that. That's it. Thank you.
Good points, thank you. We'll go to the other end of the table. Dr. Michelle Evans-White.
I'm not sure my mic's on, but
There you go.
There you go.
thank you. I just wanted to say I enjoyed so much today, learning about this place, and I hadn't really toured around the landscape here, but the Oaks Inn is beautiful. Enjoyed learning about all the beautiful bird species that Dr. McClung was sampling. Enjoyed learning about the shad project, and just highlights again how important all these non-game species are. So I appreciate it.
You know, I love how passionate our staff is about fire, and I love getting to see. And I think when I was a very young staffer, and I think it was in Perry County, the Forest Service had burned some land, and these constituents were so mad, and they came to Senator Bozeman's office, and we went out to look at it, and then we went 5 miles down the road, and something had burned, 90 days before, and you saw it, and it was, these people were like, oh, okay, and it was so unique to be here today, because I know there's controversy, and it is, I'm just a huge proponent of it, but I think it is so different. You can read the signs, you can see the presentations, but I think when people can come and see something, particularly like we saw today, that has been managed so intensely over the last, 4 or 5 years. I actually did my first prescribed fire at about 5 years old. It was about 200 acres. It wasn't prescribed, but we burned about 200 acres and had a great hay crop the next year. It was not appreciated when I did it, but really, that is something that I think that, I hope that other people get to come and see, because getting to see the side-by-sides of, something that looks rough, it was just burned, which honestly, and I think Luke and I talked about this about a month ago, hopefully we get some rain, and you've already seen the green coming up that was burned a month ago. Is amazing. So just hats off, because I know that it was a huge undertaking here. The staff, protected food plots, everything that they did. And so I'm very appreciative and just really happy to have the opportunity to come see it firsthand.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones?
It's kind of hard to go last for this group because not a lot of people have said, but I do want to say something about our staff, because it's amazing what y'all put together throughout the summer and throughout the year, and now we're in the very best part of the whole year. We're in September. Dove season is this weekend. We've got velvet season. So much to be thankful for, and just want to commend you all and our law enforcement, all divisions for putting things together like we have, and looking forward to a great year.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. The only thing I would add to all that, and 5 years ago we came out here, saw a lot of prescribed burned experience, and what it's changed since that time is refreshing to watch all that. And so kudos to the folks and the hard work that went into putting this together out here. I'm saddened and disappointed that Madam Chairwoman Dramus couldn't be here. She set this up, really wanted to be here, but certainly has much more exciting things happening in her life. So that being said, maybe we can find another time to come back out and bring her back out for this. Lastly, the safety is important. We're still not off the water yet. Terrible boat accident on Hamilton reminds us all to be aware of our surroundings and wearing life jackets and other things. And lastly, the green flag drops on hunting soon. And as we go into the fall season, it will continually get better. As we toured the dispatch room today, realizing how they are just getting ready for the storm. So let's all think about those folks as we do it. But again, thank you for your time today and everybody being here. It's been a great day. With that, we're adjourned.
Thank you.